Je sais pas ce que je fais dans mon salon à regarder ma télévision.
And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 What's up, guys? Bienvenue sur un nouvel épisode de Réveille-toi tabarnak. Réveille-toi tabarnak. Réveille-toi tabarnak. Épisode 6. Merci à tous ceux qui écoutent. Aujourd'hui, une vidéo un petit peu plus court. Le dernier durait comme 45 minutes. Faire un petit peu plus court aujourd'hui. Plusieurs sujets. Hein? On va parler de BlueBeam. On va parler de Adreno. Beep. On va parler de Phrasal. Beep. On va parler de H.A.A.R.P. On va parler de énergie infinie. Toutes sortes de bons sujets encore aujourd'hui. Fait que merci à ceux qui écoutent. On vous start ça, guys.
There's three very distinct groups of people. Two of these groups are responsible for every tyranny in history. And the third group are responsible for ending every tyranny in history. The first group says, I'm going to obey authority without question. If authority says it, it must have my best interests at heart. Well, actually, it probably doesn't by, by experience, but, okay. When they say lock down, have the jab, and all this stuff, you just do it. Then there's group number two, and group number two says, I don't really want to do it. I've got some questions, but what are the consequences of not doing it? Ooh, no, I'll do it. And those two groups are responsible for every tyranny in history. Communist, fascist, doesn't matter, because communists and fascists never impose communism and fascism, because there's never enough of them. Tyranny comes in by those two groups giving their power to tyranny in the form of acquiescence. So you come to group number three. That says, I've opened my mind, I've done a bit of research, and I don't have to do much to realize you're freaking lying to me. Not only do I know you're lying to me, I ain't cooperating with you because I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to create a tyranny, and I'm not cooperating. And that group has ended every tyranny in history. If you look at overturning tyranny, it's come from a few people originally who've said, look, I'm not cooperating with this. I'm going to refuse to cooperate with it. And what happens then is group number two, I don't really want to do it, but what are the consequences? It sees the momentum in the overturning of the tyranny, and then it starts to come on board. That's how every tyranny in history has come down, and how every tyranny in history has been imposed.
David Icke, c'est un pionnier. Ça fait 30 ans qu'il raconte ces affaires-là. Ça a été un des premiers à parler des reptiliens. Tout le monde riait de lui. Moi, j'adore David Icke. Désolé, hein, j'ai la lumière direct dans la tronche, le soleil, là. Pas grave, j'aime ça le soleil. Un petit peu d'humour pour le fun.
People who are vaccinated are going up to unvaccinated people and going, I need you to get vaxxed, so I'm safe. And people who are unvaccinated are going, but you're vaxxed. And they go, I know, I'm going to need you to get vaxxed, so I am safe. Because the virus can kill you. It's like, hey bro, I'm about to have sex with this woman, but I'm going to need you to wear a condom.
Ah, je voulais le mettre, je la trouvais bonne. On passe à BlueBeam. Pour ceux qui ne savent pas c'est quoi le projet BlueBeam.
Project BlueBeam, by the way. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
The whole idea is this. They want to make a one world government. How are we going to do that? We're going to get a whole bunch of aliens that aren't actually aliens. They're going to look like ships in the sky from these holograms, and they're going to attack. And then they're going to put Jesus Christ up there, and he's going to tell everyone, I'm going to save you. You must follow this man. They put whoever this guy is in charge. He stops the aliens, right? And after that, changes it to a one world government. I pick up a guy. It was a rideshare call. He's military, current military Marines. And he says, hey, man, since I'm never going to see you again, Project BlueBeam, it's real. What the fuck? And then he closed the door, dude. Project BlueBeam, by
Ben oui, 100% vrai pour Project BlueBeam. Ils font des tests déjà. Ils vont-tu le faire? Ils ont plein de stratégies pour amener leur gouvernement mondial. Ils ont plein de stratégies, déjà, de plans puis d'agenda. Fait qu'est-ce qu'ils vont le faire avec BlueBeam, je ne sais pas, mais ils sont capables de le faire puis c'est dans les plans.
So what happens when your identity can just be turned off, not hacked, not stolen, disabled? Right now, your identity is scattered. A license, a bank account, social media accounts, whatever. They're all separate systems under separate control. Now, digital ID, that changes it. It pulls everything into one identity inside one system. And once that happens, access becomes conditional. Can't pass verification? Well, locked out of your bank account, locked out of your social media, your access to travel, anything else, cut off. Airports already testing digital ID with face scans. No scan, no flight. Back in 2022, Canada froze the bank accounts of convoy truckers who were protesting. And in China, social credit, that can restrict where you travel, when you travel, how you travel. So imagine all these systems tied directly to your identity. This isn't just identification, it's real-time permission. Your identity becomes something that has to be constantly approved. And when everything connects to it, your money, your movement, your access, one system decides what works and what doesn't. Now, here's what they're banking on. This only works if it becomes normal, if we accept it without question. And right now, we still have a choice. So where's your line? You best wake up, because this is coming.
Ça revient aux vidéos de David Icke au début, qui expliquait qu'il y a 3 types de personnes. Ceux qui obéissent sans se poser de questions, ceux qui se posent des questions, mais qui se disent « Ouais, moi suivre pareil », puis ceux qui veulent rien savoir de suivre. Fait qu'on a encore un choix. Mais ça revient aux 3 types de personnes que David Icke comptait tantôt. Je vais vous montrer une expérience qu'ils ont faite. Vous allez voir comment c'est fucké. J'allais écouter cette vidéo-là. Là. La perception. Ils engagent des acteurs pour dire... ben, vous allez le voir. Je vais vous le montrer. Vous allez comprendre. Il y en a juste un qui c'est une vraie personne, puis les autres, c'est tous des acteurs. Puis la vraie personne finit par accepter le mensonge juste pour suivre les acteurs. Dans le fond.
The H.A.A.R.P experiment is one of psychology's oldest and most popular pieces of research. A volunteer is told that he's taking part in a visual perception test. What he doesn't know is that the other participants are actors, and he's the only person taking part in the real test, which is actually about group conformity.
Please begin. The experiment you will be taking part in today involves the perception of line length. Your task will be simply to look at the line here on the left and indicate which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. So, for example, if you...
The actors have been told to match the wrong lines. The volunteer will be monitored to see if he gives the correct answer or if he goes along with the opinion of the group and gives the wrong answer. In the first test, the correct answer is 2.
1. 1. 1.
2.
1.
Once again, the correct answer is 2.
3. 3. 3.
3.
3.
The H.A.A.R.P experiment has been repeated many times, and the results have been supported again and again. We will conform to the group. Again, we're very social creatures. We're very much aware of what the people around us think. We want to be liked. We don't want to be seen to rock the boat, so we will go along with the group. Even if we don't believe what people are saying, we'll still go along.
1. 1. 1.
Group dynamics is one of the most powerful forces.
C'est fou, là. Fait qu'ils peuvent... tu sais, on est rempli d'NPC alentour de nous autres. Fait qu'eux autres, s'ils disent 1, 1, 1, 1, toi, tu sais que c'est 3, tu sais que c'est 3, mais tu vas être dans le groupe, fait que tu vas dire 1. C'est fou, mais c'est 100% vrai. L'être humain a besoin d'appartenir à un groupe. Moi, non. Moi, je m'en calisse. Là, on rentre dans des sujets très sérieux, guys. Sujet très sérieux, là, ça niaise plus. On va parler d'Adreno avec, comment il s'appelle? Jim Caviezel, l'acteur. Après ça, on va parler de Phrasal, Hillary Clinton, puis ainsi de suite. On part là-dessus, puis pour la fin, on va y aller avec H.A.A.R.P, puis aussi avec l'énergie infinie. Là, on rentre dans un sujet très sérieux, guys.
You said a word a minute ago, and I want to clarify what that word was, because you said a word, and I want to make sure that you said adrenochrome.
Yeah.
And a lot of people here, there's about 4,500 people here. There's about 500,000 people streaming online. We're having some cyber attacks. That feed's been going on and off. But you said that word, and by a show of hands, who's heard that word before in this building? Could you please explain, to the extent that you want to or not want to, what that is? Because some people have never heard that before, and we need to discuss that.
Essentially, you have adrenaline in your body. I'll just simplify it. And when you are scared, you produce adrenaline. If you're an athlete, you get in the fourth quarter, you have adrenaline that comes out of you. If a child knows he's going to die, his body will secrete this adrenaline, and they have a lot of terms that they use that he takes me through. But it's the worst horror I've ever seen, is screaming alone, even if I never, ever saw it. It's beyond, and these people that do it, there'll be no mercy for them. And when at that point where I have tears coming out of my eyes because my heart is so on fire, I'm fearless. You're fearless. You're the best that you will ever be when God is in your heart like that. And when it's burning, you're fearless, and you're not afraid of the devil. You actually hunt him. And any of them that hurt our little children in the film, there's a line in there where he says, why are you doing this? And I say to him, as Tim said, because God's children are not for sale. They're not for sale. You can't do it anymore, Satan. And we're coming after you. And I'm not afraid, and I'd ask you all not to be afraid either, because they're worth saving.
They're giving you a standing ovation right here in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You're fucking done, Satan. Là, une autre affaire, c'est très dur à écouter. Dans le fond, il y avait 10 policiers qui ont vu une vidéo qu'il y avait sur le laptop d'Anthony Weiner. C'est ça, Anthony Weiner? Non, John Podesta. Une vidéo d'Hillary Clinton qui fait des affaires très dégueulasses. Puis bizarrement, 9 sur 10 de ces policiers-là se sont fait suicider. Puis il y en a un qui a témoigné pour dire qu'est-ce qu'il a vu sur cette vidéo-là. Je vous avertis, très dur à écouter.
Did you report on an episode called Frazzle Drip?
Yes.
And is Frazzle Drip something about cutting off the faces of children under a pizza parlor, or what is it? Can you tell me what Frazzle Drip is, Phil?
Yeah. Frazzle Drip is a video that was on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder on his desktop titled Insurance. And the
C'est ça, désolé, c'était Anthony Weiner.
laptop in question was taken during a investigation into Anthony Weiner. And the video in question, Frazzle Drip, was in that folder. And video depicts a woman who is the same height, build, haircut, facial features, and attire as Hillary Clinton. And there is a second woman who fits the same description to H.A.A.R.P, which was Anthony Weiner's wife. And in the video, which looks like the basement of Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C., it shows both of the females in the video laying different children on top of ping pong tables, which are in the basement, molesting those children, frightening those children with weapons, and then drinking something, which would line up with the theory that it is the blood of those children for purposes of extracting adrenochrome.
Ça, c'est fou. J'ai pas de mots. Je vais répéter ce que j'ai dit tantôt. Satan, you're fucking done, man. Au Québec, il n'y a pas grand monde qui réveille, mais moi, je suis là.
Avant tout, si je devais disparaître, je ne suis pas du tout suicidaire. C'est qu'on m'a fait disparaître. Et si ça arrive, je me réincarne et dans 20 ans, je retrouve mon bagage spirituel et je prends ma revanche. T'es prêt pour la pilule rouge? Viens avec moi, on va suivre le lapin blanc. Regardez cette vidéo, vous allez tout comprendre sur la plus grande guerre qui n'a jamais existé, qui est en train de se passer actuellement et qui est invisible. Si vous êtes un minimum éveillé, que je vous demande qui contrôle réellement le monde, vous allez me dire la communauté. Ce qui est en partie vrai, et un être détaché du bruit du monde car il faut l'être ne peut respecter que ça. Bravo à cette communauté, 0,2% de la population mais à la tête de chaque gouvernement, ça demande un immense respect. Un être un peu plus éveillé sait qu'il y a une élite dans l'élite sataniste, ce qui est vrai. Mais vous vous êtes jamais demandé pour quelle raison cette élite était sataniste? La réalité c'est qu'ils vénèrent des entités maléfiques démoniaques du bas astral, sauf qu'on n'est pas dans des croyances stupides. C'est des entités qui existent réellement et elles ont été invoquées depuis des millénaires. Pour offrir à l'homme sa plus grande faiblesse, le pouvoir, dont il n'en aura jamais assez. Ta réalité est liée à ton état de conscience qui définit ta fréquence. Ces entités n'existent que dans la fréquence la plus basse. C'est pour ça qu'on fait des trucs pas catholiques aux enfants depuis des millénaires. Pour entrer en communication avec cette entité, il faut que l'invocateur soit sur la fréquence la plus basse. S'en prendre à un enfant est le péché le plus ultime. Donc l'invocateur peut se retrouver sur la même fréquence que le démon. Les gens qui nous gouvernent vraiment travaillent dans l'ombre pour ces entités. Ces entités ont besoin d'énergie négative pour vivre, exister. Anxiété, stress, peur, panique. Et tu regardes la tranche de la société, tout est fait pour que l'homme dégage de l'énergie négative pour détruire sa santé mentale. Actualité, industrie musicale qui prône la violence, l'État qui est tout en haut du trafic de drogue, banalisation de la luxure. On prône des thérapies de genre sur fond de bien-pensance, mais on détruit totalement la personne qui finit sous antidépresseur pour affronter sa réalité. Dans le fond, tout ça n'est que pour fournir de l'énergie aux entités qu'ils vénèrent. Les démons sont partout. Vous avez tous des proches qui ont vécu des traumas, expériences difficiles ou d'autres qui vibrent très bas en permanence et sont sous l'influence de ces entités qui viennent influencer leurs pensées comme des parasites. En tant que chosen, tous les démons que tu as rencontrés jusqu'à maintenant, qui n'étaient là que pour aspirer ton énergie divine, étaient également là pour t'éveiller sur le sujet de la spiritual warfare. Tu prends du recul, c'était toutes les mêmes. Ces démons que tu as rencontrés juste là pour créer un lien énergétique et aspirer ton énergie divine. Maintenant, ta mission sur Terre, tu es venu armé de dons spirituels, tu as dû t'éveiller pour les retrouver. Tu es là pour combattre les forces maléfiques et essayer d'élever la fréquence de l'humanité, car les entités n'existent que dans la fréquence la plus basse. Et comment? Avec l'authenticité en premier, car c'est la fréquence la plus haute. Le docteur Joe Dispenza a fait des études dessus. Et après vient l'amour. La vraie spiritualité, c'est la vérité, bien brute et bien dure, qui fait mal, un peu, mais c'est le meilleur moyen pour élever une fréquence. Arrêtez de vivre dans le déni d'illusion pour vous et vos proches. Tu dois utiliser ta clairvoyance et tes pouvoirs pour dire la vérité sur la triste réalité de ce monde afin d'éveiller le plus de monde possible. Et aimer ton prochain le plus possible. Amen.
Amen. On va y aller avec H.A.A.R.P.
Primate from human, and that was the...
Oh non, désolé, pas tout de suite, H.A.A.R.P. On a un dernier, c'est des sujets difficiles, mais on n'a pas le choix, il faut en parler. Il faut en parler. Fait que... un dernier vidéo là-dessus, là, va nous amener sur H.A.A.R.P.
Focus of Jeffrey Epstein and Jeffrey Epstein's bosses, and you know that that we have definitive proof now that he was being paid by the Rothschilds. We also have definitive proof that he was tied to the Rockefeller empire, and this is kind of what I've shared with my people. Most people don't know that Jeffrey Epstein came to fame when he was made a member of the Trilateral Commission and the Council of Foreign Relations by David Rockefeller in 1983. He was only 30 years old and had no history. What was his job? His original job was to continue on the project that the Rockefellers had started with DARPA.
Encore DARPA.
And that was getting involved in the MK program where they found out that blue light, specifically polarized blue light, could be used to change the...
Écoutez bien ça. La lumière bleue de nos écrans. Une partie d'MK Ultra.
D and L amino acids, and that would lead to control. That's what the government found out in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and that project went on. That's the reason why every screen is blue lit and blue lit control, because what they effectively can do is they can control your dopamine level. What the Rockefellers were very interested in was melanin. And melanin turns out to be on chromosome number 2, which is the POMC gene. Epstein was taken out in 19 because he was now considered a useless idiot, is because now Peter Thiel, H.A.A.R.P, and Palantir have replaced him. So what is the battle royale going on now? We're not going to use blackmail anymore. We're going to use surveillance technology to do the same thing. But remember, is the goal the same of control? The answer is absolutely. And once you understand that the game is control, you begin to understand that everything that you went through, like, for example, you said you're vaccine injured.
Yeah.
It's easier to control somebody who's injured and tied to the pharmaceutical industry for the rest of their life. The answer is yes. So that's effectively what they're interested in. And when you understand that fundamentally, their goal is, as you aptly put it, to go back to feudalism and medievalism. Why? Because back then the population was small. It was easy to control. They were able to do it back then with, centralized monarchies. Right now, the goal, probably in the next 50 years, that's the goal of Agenda 2030, is to shrink the population by any means necessary. And hopefully the public helps them, which they are, through their compliance.
Exactly.
And then eventually they'll have maybe a population on Earth between 500 million and 1 billion people. And it's much easier to control a fiefdom that way than not. Now, of course, when you lay this story out for your audience and a guy like you, and you hear this, you go, this is absolutely, dastardly.
That's absolutely insane, mais c'est ça qu'ils font. Bon, switch H.A.A.R.P. No fucking way.
Each of these trailers you see around me have transmitters in them. The transmitters feed power from the main building over there up into these dipole antennas. And basically there are 180 antennas radiating high frequency waves up in the ionosphere. It's a big ham radio, a big HF radio, the biggest in the world. Fundamentally what this is about is taking the ionosphere at 100 kilometers up and turning it into a laboratory. We can do experiments. We can create bubbles. We can heat small sections. We can create waves. We can excite plasma resonances and do a lot of experiments. We can transmit signals all around the world. We can study effects of the ionosphere. It basically makes the ionosphere a laboratory, and we can do experiments that no one else can do.
Pour ceux qui ne savent pas c'est quoi le projet H.A.A.R.P, il y en a un gros en Alaska. C'est contrôle de météo. Il envoie des chemtrails, puis après il shoot des ondes avec les antennes 5G, puis ça a fait les nuages fuckés qu'on a montré tantôt. Là, on y va dans le sujet de l'énergie infinie, que plusieurs personnes ont découvert, puis que bizarrement, on n'a toujours pas de l'énergie infinie.
The ring being in effect a one-turn shorted secondary. A smaller ring will react even more violently. Here is another ring. This one made of a material we say is non-conducting. And it is completely unaffected. Here is another example. Several thousand watts of power were involved in that spark. If we replace the spark gap with a copper coil, the same power now flows through the coil. It's invisible, has no effect on many substances. but it can generate a lot of heat. Wood, paper, things that we think of as being quite inflammable are not affected at all. However, a piece of steel wool bursts into flame instantly. Did you ever fry an egg on a cold stove? It's no trick at all if you have the right equipment. This is a cold hot plate. And because it's cold, you can make it out of wood, if you like. Just be sure that there's a coil of wire inside and that you connect that coil to a high voltage alternating current source. The rest is easy. As long as we're being different, we'll use motor oil instead of Crisco. The egg fries very quickly, but the stove remains perfectly cold. In fact, if you wish to keep it handy, you can fry your egg on the morning newspaper. With a gadget like this, you can get up in the morning, sit on the stove, read the morning newspaper, and fry the eggs in your lap. Another example of the fact that physical forces can be quite selective.
Ah, c'est fou, hein? C'est malade, regarde. OK, je vous envoie le dernier vidéo. Il est long, je vais vous le mettre en plein écran, mais très important. Écoutez ça, guys. Écoutez ça. Tous ceux qui ont découvert, ben c'est pas tous ceux, hein, il y en a beaucoup. J'ai même écouté un documentaire, m'a emmené, il y avait un gars en Éthiopie qui avait trouvé une machine, comment faire de l'énergie à l'infini. Il s'est fait envoyer en prison. Quand il est sorti de prison, il s'est associé avec un mafieux pour refaire sa machine, puis là, les deux se sont fait tuer. Dans le fin fond de l'Éthiopie, avec pas d'argent, rien. Il y en a tellement d'exemples de ceux qui ont découvert l'énergie infinie. Puis ça disparaît, c'est classifié, le monde, ils se font suicider, pendant que nous autres, on paye 3 piastres du litre du diesel. Gang de câbles, puis qu'on paye 1000 piastres par mois d'hydro.
You may all know this man. This man is called Nikola Tesla. And in my opinion, he's one of the brightest minds in the history of science. And he's worked on technologies which not only harvest electricity from the vacuum of space, but also to transmit it wirelessly across the globe for everybody to use freely. And just to quote him here, electric power is everywhere in unlimited quantities and can power the world's machinery without the need for coal, oil, or gas. Isn't that amazing? Well, unfortunately, his primary investor, called J.P. Morgan, he eventually found out that he could not profit from Tesla's ideas. So he simply cut his funding at one point, and Tesla died a rather poor man, and without the respect he actually deserved. Now, this is just a list of people who have worked on similar technologies, if you're interested and want to do your own research, and I'm just going to name 2 more examples of this list. Next is is that of Stanley Meyer. You may all know of the possibility to run your car on hydrogen gas. You got the combustible mixture of oxygen and hydrogen. You burn it, it leaves you with excess power to run your car, and the byproduct of just tap water, H2O. Well, Stanley Meyer actually found out a way to use tap water as a fuel source by hitting the water molecule at its resonant frequency and thereby very effectively splitting the water in hydrogen and oxygen. And with this, he built a dune buggy with which he could drive from the east to the west coast of the United States on just 1 full tank of water. At one point, unfortunately, he went out to dinner with his investors. Yes, again, investors. And after sipping his cranberry juice, he grabbed his throat. He bolted out the door of the restaurant. He dropped to his knees and cursed that he had been poisoned. And this sounds like something straight from a movie, right? But it's actually real, and you can look up the details yourself. I'll just give one more example, that of an actual working device, currently in Switzerland. And to all you electrical engineers, this may resemble an electrostatic Wimshurst machine. Sounds complicated, but this one actually converts the ambient field energy, or radiant energy as Tesla would call it, into usable electricity. And the reason why Mr. Bauman has chosen not to disclose this technology is that he thinks humanity is simply not ready for it yet. And we may soon see why. So this leaves us with a very big question: what happened? Why are we not driving in water-fueled cars? Why are we not receiving electricity from the atmosphere or the vacuum of space freely? Peter Lindemann is an authority on the radiant energy Tesla was talking about, and he proposed 4 forces, actually. And the first being the banking system. And I know what some of you may think, oh, here comes that guy with that Illuminati conspiracy theory. No, we're going to leave that behind. So in a free market economy, everybody is free to earn as much money as they like, but only in the form of the dollar or the euro or whatever currency you have. So you're never going to be paid in gold anymore, for example. So if I would have a system with which I can raise my own capital without borrowing it from a bank, the control of this banking system is lost. So naturally, they do everything to stop this. You can even see this in current day technologies, like photovoltaics and wind turbines. They're already being regulated more and more because of their devaluating capacity. It's even on the cover of The Economist. It's not a big secret or conspiracy. And that brings me to the second force, national governments. Because governments found out that the true policy that actually works is called an eye for an eye. So it's constantly jockeying for influence in world affairs, and it's survival of the fittest, basically. So imagine when one nation or one party in another nation achieves the ability to generate their own power. The balance of power literally shifts from the government to that other nation or party within that nation. And everybody will want this technology, and at the same time, everybody will want to prevent the other from getting it. So to prevent this chaos, governments do something smart. They issue a restriction on any patent or invention that can give an opponent an advantage over the government in power generation. It's called invention secrecy, and it's still going strong, as the Federal Agency of American Scientists says. The third group is actually comprised of the deluded inventors, or fraudsters, if you will, which actually are only in it for the money. So the problem is most of these devices don't work. YouTube is full of them. And actually the first 2 forces use the worst cases of these people to promote the idea that every technology concerning this free energy is a hoax, is a scam. So nobody believes in it anymore. And then there's the people who actually have built a device that works, but they're still in it for the money. And then Shell comes to their doorstep and says, hey, here's a couple of $1 million, go live a happy life, but don't speak about your technology again. So what is a couple of $1 million to a $20 trillion industry anyway? Now, I'm really wondering if somebody from the audience can guess what the 4th force is. What is the 4th force that is preventing this tech from happening? Anybody has an idea? Consumers. Exactly. It's all the rest of us. It's you and me. Because you see, the incentives and the motives of the first 3 forces, they seem so selfish and so narrow. But in reality, we share those same motives. These forces are literally just different aspects of the same problem. It's a human one. It's the greed, and it's the fear of competition, and it's that want for power. So in the end, I believe that this revolution, it has to happen within our lifetimes. And either it goes horribly wrong, and we destroy ourselves in the process, or we as a people choose the green transition. And we can nowadays, because we have the internet to form a critical mass and spread the information, as opposed to, let's say, 20 years ago. So that's why I challenge you all to do your own research into this subject, if you are interested, and spread the word. Because it is up to us to develop this technology that is already there. And the first 3 forces are not going to help us with this. And I would like to close with this. The true basic need of every human, I don't think it's water, it's not food, and it certainly is not money. I think it's energy. And that is why my hope for the future is a world in which energy is free for everybody. Thank you very much.
Hey, merci guys. Fait que c'était ça le vidéo. Si t'es resté jusqu'à la fin, laisse un like, laisse ton commentaire. J'ai eu la belle lumière tout le long droit d'en face. Ça, c'est bon signe. Fait que sur ce, à la prochaine. Peace et amour à tout le monde. Ciao.
I can't tell you about the Matrix. All I can do is give you the red pill, and you got to see for yourself.